Do you know that most of what we consider normal life, offices, school systems, 9 to 5 jobs, management hierarchies, even organizations, all of that only became widespread in the last 150 years? That is why our definition of leadership and how we lead our teams isn't working anymore. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was in a leadership meeting where someone said, if they can't measure it, it doesn't matter. My breath caught in my throat, and I remember feeling this pang in my chest because everything we were measuring missed the very thing that hold a team together. Things like unspoken generosity, emotional labor, creative tension, relational courage, these things that can't be counted. But somehow they always count. We were tracking hours, not outcomes. Efficiency, not insight. Compliance, not innovation. Attendance, and not engagement. And then I had an aha moment. I started to notice a pattern. The deeper value, the real fuel of any thriving team, was invisible to the systems that we have built to measure success. My theory is that our definition of leadership and how we lead our teams hasn't quite caught up with the evolution of society or the innovation of the generation that is currently in the workforce. Let's face it, most leaders are still leading like it was 1950, through authority, power, and control, as if power flows only one way, when what people really need to thrive is safety, purpose, and just the space to show up. Look, I'm not trying to start a revolution here. I know I'm not the only one with this kind of thinking. There's already been a lot of change in the way companies operate and how leaders lead, but it's definitely not the norm. Those leaders, they stand out. Those leaders are considered unique. Those leaders are not yet the way that leadership looks in the mainstream. But they are the ones that are quietly rewriting the rules, and they are also living proof that something new is already unfolding. So, for every leader still following that old, outdated template, let me say something that might feel a little bit uncomfortable. The leadership model most people follow these days is completely outdated. We've inherited leadership theories that were never designed for human beings. They were built for production, for factories, for systems, and for control. And if you're still leading from that old playbook, then maybe you're starting to feel a little something too. That quiet dissonance, like doing it all, when you're doing all the right things, but none of it feels right anymore. And it also no longer fits what your team really needs. That tight, heavy feeling at the pit of your tummy, that is not you being broken or failing. You're not an outsider to the shift that you're sensing. You're actually a part of it. So leaders, guess what? You're evolving too, just like your teams. But the system you're leading inside hasn't evolved with you. That's the real tension, actually. You're operating inside a structure that was never built for you to thrive. I've heard it called the Industrial Hangover. And honestly, it kind of fits. In this video, we're going to unpack where it came from, how it's still running the show, and what to do if you're ready to lead like it is actually 2025. But first, let's rewind for a second and have a look at where the traditional leadership model actually came from. Before we begin, let me just say that I am not against education. I fully endorse learning and knowledge, but in school, we were taught to raise our hands, follow the rules, memorize facts, and stick to the bell schedule. And you know what? That wasn't just about learning. It wasn't even about instilling discipline. And it certainly wasn't about character building. What it was conditioning. The truth is, the schools that we grew up in were not designed to grow wild, innovative thinkers. They were designed to feed the workforce in the industrial world. The modern workplace was built on a blueprint designed for predictable output, obedient workers, clear chains of command, and efficiency over creativity. And it really worked. For wartime, for rigid hierarchies, for industry and factories, it made sense back then. During the Industrial Revolution, we actually needed that model. And so managers naturally were trained to enforce productivity, and workers were conditioned to stay in line or face dire consequences. People were conditioned to believe that success only looked a certain way, and in order to be successful, it meant fitting in to a machine. But times have changed. That machine doesn't fit anymore. We're at a dawn of a new age. The digital revolution has already begun, and the landscape we operate in just doesn't fit the old way anymore. Yet we're still clinging to it in our performance reviews, in our obsession with output, in our leadership handbooks that still talk about control and compliance. I've seen it play out over and over again. Leaders pushing metrics over meaning, teams burning out under constant pressure, and people managing optics instead of the truth. And then we wonder why everything feels brittle. It's because the world has changed, but the operating model hasn't. So the cracks are starting to show. But that's not even the scary part. What really scares me is how normalized it is. We're so used to the old way that we don't even question it. Do you know that most of what we consider normal life, offices, school systems, 9-to-5 jobs, management hierarchies, organizations, corporates, all of that only became widespread in the last 150 years? That's the tiniest little drop in an ocean of human history. Yet, we've been taught that this modern model is the default. But in truth, it's a very recent overlay on the human experience. We have forgotten that human beings are cyclical, not linear, that deep work can't be forced by clocks and bells, and that we were built for connection, creativity, and adaptability, not compliance. No wonder it's not working anymore, right? We're not in the industrial world anymore. We are in a digital-first, remote flexible, creative economy, and the rules have changed. Teams are spread across time zones, work happens in sprints, in flow, in bursts of insight, and people now are super engaged, super inspired. Innovation, it's driven by purpose. We're no longer motivated by compliance-based conditioning. And this is where I see it become tricky. Because many leaders with the best of intentions are unable to meet their team's needs because they're still using those old, outdated models of what good leadership looks like. Let me tell you, that old, outdated model sets even the most well-intentioned leaders up to fail, repeating outdated patterns, not because they don't care, but because they've been taught that good leadership means tracking hours instead of outcomes, micromanaging when what's really needed is mentorship, demanding loyalty instead of building trust through humility, vulnerability, and actually real relationships with their teams. I coached someone recently, let's call her Alex, who said she felt like she was managing a ghost team. Everyone was technically present, but no one was engaged. And so I worked with the team and Alex, and we worked through conflict management and team building. And at the end, discovered the reason her team was disconnected and literally checked out was because they didn't feel safe to actually show up. They felt undervalued and unseen. They were exhausted and didn't see the point of being invested. Because the way that Alex had been trained to lead had slowly eroded the team's purpose, their passion, and their mission. Sadly, Alex's story is not even unique. I see this every day. Brilliant people stuck in old leadership models, visionaries questioning their capacity, and whole entire teams quietly quitting without ever actually resigning. But you know what? Here's the thing. This moment in history is a pivotal point, not just for leadership, but for culture, for how we work, relate, create, and how we thrive. The question is no longer what's wrong with the system. None of us chose this old model. We inherited it. And we adapted to it. We made it work because we had to, but now we have a choice. And with that choice comes the responsibility of intentionality, not inertia. If right about now you're wondering, so what does this all mean in real time? We are not stuck with misaligned systems built for a redundant model of the world. It means we start designing something that actually fits how we live, how we work, and how we grow today. Our current reality requires something radically different: autonomy, creativity, emotional intelligence, and agility. Just imagine for a moment a team that is co-creating solutions with you. People showing up fully with vulnerability, doubt, creativity, conflict, joy, not just their job titles. Fully showing up as a human being. There's space to pause, to ask questions, to say, actually, I don't know yet, and not to lose credibility. And you get to leave the room at the end of that meeting with more energy than you walked in with. That is what intentional leadership makes possible. And it's not out of reach. It starts with a shift in how we choose to lead and create an environment where people speak without fear, offer feedback without flinching, and laugh freely within our working hours. Leading this way takes courage. I know, because it can come with discomfort. It means you need to be vulnerable. It comes with conflict. But you know what? Courage is contagious. It encourages creativity and accountability. When no one's calculating their worth by the productivity and everyone knows that the value they bring goes far beyond what can be measured. This kind of leadership doesn't just build results, it builds legacy. That's the world we get to build. If we stop clinging to leadership systems that were never designed for us in the first place. I'm not trying to blame the past, just saying, but rather encourage us to reclaim the present. In my experience, once you've been immersed in that level of liberation, autonomy, creativity, emotional intelligence, and agility, it's literally soul-crushing to go back to disconnection irrelevance, and exclusion. Basically, what I'm saying is, you don't have to carry the weight of holding it all together alone. You can choose to lead differently and invest in truth, not optics, trust, not fear, driven by coherence and insight, and not compliance. The future of leadership is human, relational, self-aware, decentralized, and visionary. But here's the beautiful part. It doesn't require to become someone else. It asks you to come home to who you really are. To ask, what parts of me have I been suppressing to lead correctly? What did I inherit that I no longer choose? What would leadership look like if it was grounded in wholeness? Because when you start being intentionally present in your leadership, everything shifts. Your team feels it, you feel it. The work feels different. Not perfect, just real. I want to invite you to pause, to question, to evolve. We don't need more leaders playing old games. We need more humans willing to lead with clarity, courage, and presence. If this resonates with you at all and you're keen to go deeper, I've got something that'll give you some direction. I'm offering my Clarity Workbook for free. Go ahead and grab a copy for yourself. The link is in the description. And while you're at it, please like and comment and subscribe. It helps the YouTube algorithm get this video in front of people who need it. I would love to hear what parts of leadership you're beginning to unravel. Let me know in the comments. And if you would like space to go even deeper, to deconstruct and then rebuild in a way that's true to you, my coaching sessions are open. You'll find the link below. You don't have to do it the way it's always been done. You get to choose something different. I wish you well on your leadership journey, and I'll see you next time. Like, share, or follow, and comment coaching to grab a free Clarity Workbook while you're at it. And if you're ready for deeper support, go ahead and book a coaching session. Everything's linked in the description.